things run. We don't have too much on the public hearing tonight, but if you want to speak, you need to fill out a speaker card, and then submit it to Tammy. She'll get it up to us so we can then call upon you to speak. You'll get 3 minutes to speak. Well, the way the whole system goes is staff will introduce the item. We can ask then questions of staff about the application. The applicant gets to make a presentation. We can ask the applicant some questions, and then you, if you submitted a form, can speak. Well, anybody can speak, but you really need to fill out a form for the record. You get 3 minutes to speak. We can ask you some questions, maybe. We then close public comment. The applicant gets to rebut or make comments or answer your questions that you may have raised, and then we make a motion to either recommend approval or deny approval to the county commission. We are only a recommending board, so this is not the final event. If you object to something or even in favor of something, it will go to the Seminole County Commission you'll have to check the calendar at what meeting, but they make the final decision whether they accept our recommendation to approve or disapprove, and you can then appear before them. So with that being said, we'll start our meeting. The first item is just accept proof of publication.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the proof of publication.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for acceptance of proof of publication. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one. We have the approval of the minutes from our last meeting.
Chairman, I do have a correction to the minutes.
There is a correction?
On page 9, fourth paragraph, under voting, I did not vote in favor.
All right. We don't have corrections very often, you sure?
Yeah.
Very good. All right, did you get that, Tammy?
I did,
Okay.
thank you.
Any other corrections? All right. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes as corrected?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No one. All right, the first item of new business is a technical review item. This means that this item, it's a PSP, or preliminary subdivision plan. It's been previously recommended for approval by us. It went to the commission, got approved, and now their next step is a preliminary subdivision plan, which we then also get a chance to prove and make sure that they conform to all the rules and regulations that were put upon them when it was approved. So Joy, with that, go ahead.
Yes, good evening. Joy Giles, Senior Planner for the Planning and Development Division. The applicant is requesting approval of the Bartram's Landing Preliminary Subdivision Plan on 8.85 acres located on the north side of Orange Boulevard, 1 mile west of Monroe Road. The PSP proposes 31 residential lots on 8.85 acres with a maximum density of 3.75 units per net buildable acre and a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. The PSP complies with all conditions of the Bartram's Landing PD Final Development Plan, Development Order, and Chapter 35 of the Seminole County Land Development Code. All internal roads will be private and utilities will be provided by Seminole County. Staff recommends approval of the Bartram's Landing Preliminary Subdivision Plan on 8.85 acres as requested. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Do we have any, we have one. Okay. We have two. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of staff? And it conforms to their development order, you said that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Joy. We have one person that wants to speak against this item, Cindy Holler. Cindy, state your name and address for the record, please.
Cindy Holler, 1731 Beacon Drive, Sanford. So I spoke against this item at the P&Z. P&Z agreed with the residents and did not vote for approval of Bartram's. I spoke against this item at the BCC, and it was Commissioner Carey's last BCC meeting, and it was approved. There were a couple of things that Commissioner Amy Lockhart had brought up, and I didn't know if those were in the development order, and that was to leave the trees on the north side part of the property in place And to do, obviously, the board talked about a proper retention pond, which I hope will get done because this is a very low-lying area within Sanford Farms. Another thing is, and this is kind of a controversial subject, and I sort of have changed my opinion on walls within the Sanford Farms community because of the water flow and the wildlife. I know that the community was approved with a wall. I would imagine that's in development order, but I'll address the wall more when we talk about, what do you call, the cove at Sanford Farms. So really just kind of talking about the trees that were left, and then I don't know if St. John's River Water Management District has given their permit yet for Bartram's Landing.
The answer to that would be no. They issue that when they submit engineering plans.
Oh, okay, all right. I mean, overall, I still think 3.75 units, even though it's less than some of the other communities north of Orange Boulevard, I still think it's too much for that area. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I forgot to mention, Joy, did you want to address the tree issue? I did forget the applicant. Did the applicant want to say anything? Is the applicant present?
I do not see the applicant. I'm
Okay.
not sure if he's online, but I don't see him.
No?
So I can address the development order for the PD itself. There was no motion to put the saving of any particular trees in the development order.
Okay.
There was a motion to require a wall along the north perimeter. Only the north perimeter of the site requires a wall, and that was due to the owner on the north requesting that.
And that is now shown on their plan, on their PSP?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Any other questions of staff? Anybody else? We don't have any more cards, but is there anybody else who wants to speak for or against this application? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. What's the board's pleasure, or does anybody have any other comments on this PSP?
No.
Do we have a motion?
I would just, for board discussion, I mean, the speaker brought it up, but we did vote against this before. At this stage, I'm not sure that that's relevant anymore, but we had a lot of reasons, an awful lot of residents that came out.
Yeah. Well, it's your prerogative. I mean, you can, if they conform to everything, it's tough to now.
Yeah, no,
They
I
have a
agree.
development, they have an approved development order, it's tough to,
I agree,
it's
but
tough to slam them.
on that basis, though, I'm not going to make the motion.
Huh?
If you'd like to speak
So,
on
Oh. I closed the public hearing, but I'll make an exception. Go ahead, state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Wafa Esposito, 5040 Hawks Hammock Way in Sanford. I have a question. It doesn't seem like the St. John has approved this for building. What is the procedure? I mean, at least that's my recollection from contacting St. John. It seems like the project is going ahead, but there is no say of the St. John regarding whether it's a wetland or not. So would you be...
They have to submit a full application to St. John's with their engineering plans, their drainage plans, wetland impacts, and any other environmental concerns. The application gets reviewed at St. John's. If there's wetland impacts, they'll have to agree with St. John's, will tell them what kind of mitigation they can do, or whether they'll approve that impacts or not. They can pay for mitigation, or they can do various things, but they have to get through that process. St. John's will review the drainage and see if it meets all the criteria of St. John's and works, but our county also reviews the drainage plan. So they have to pass both. St. John's will then issue a construction permit, allow them to build this subdivision after full review.
So to better understand, this won't go all these approval will be ready before it goes to the Board of Commissioners?
No, it doesn't go to the Board of Commissioner anymore. This is the last hearing on this item. Once, if we approve the PSP, or PSP is approved, they can then move to engineering plans, and they then deal with staff, they deal with St. John's. You could go to St. John's, though, and talk about their permit application.
Yeah, well, I'm trying. Okay, so we won't be able to review that paperwork trail through the county here?
You can deal with engineering staff and so forth about, and ask questions about if you think there are concerns on their plans, but it doesn't go back to the public hearing anymore if staff feels the engineering plans are adequate and meet all the criteria and they can approve them.
Okay,
You can still address your concerns, staff will listen to you.
with the engineer?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if you'd like, for the benefit of the public, I can explain a little bit of the process.
Sure.
On how.
Go
So
ahead,
the step in this process, so the beginning is the rezone and future land use. So this process has gone through that. So the next step is the preliminary subdivision plan. That's the phase that they're in now, and that is to establish the number of lots that they have, the size and the number of lots. The next step would be the final engineering plan. That is only staff review, but you can always come in to the planning offices and request a copy of those plans for review. But the approval of those plans is at the staff level. It will not go back to a commission beyond, after this point.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right.
All right, back to where we were. Do we have a motion? You can also move to disapprove this, I think. What, Mary, if the board here disapprove, this is the last hearing on this.
Yes, so this is a technical review item, so the
Yes.
board is here to look at the technical merits, so did it meet
They
the-
have to, we have to find something that says
Something
they
that-
didn't conform with the
Correct.
development order.
Yes.
Okay.
I have one question for staff. When we discussed this, if I remember correctly, was there not some type of an outfall that's leading over to a historic drainage ditch? And I don't see that coming out of the retention pond or any mention of it.
There was discussion about that, I believe, going to the east.
Yeah.
Engineering has not been submitted or reviewed, so none of that has been taken a look at yet.
Okay.
Because that comes with engineering.
Okay.
So then, given the comments from staff, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the preliminary subdivision plan for the Bartram's Landing at St. John subdivision containing 31 lots on 8.85 acres, Zone PD, plan development, located on the north side of Orange Boulevard, 1 mile west of Monroe Road.
I'll second the motion.
I apologize for the interruption. We did not ask if there's anyone online who had a
I'm sorry, did
raised
you have
hand.
someone?
I do have someone. I will leave it up to the chair if you would like.
No, let's hear from them. Hold the
I
motion.
apologize for that.
That's all right.
So Ms. Harmon had her hand raised. You're in the meeting if you'd like to speak.
Thank you, Nancy Harmon, 752 Pioneer Way, Geneva, Florida.
I apologize, we can't hear you. I think, can you say?
Is that better?
Yes, yes.
It'd be good if I put my mouth thing to the phone, right? Okay. Nancy Harmon, 752 Pioneer Way in Geneva, Florida. To ride on what Commissioner Smith just asked, I understand you're saying that that's something that drainage is something that would come at a later review, but that is not, I don't believe this plan as it's submitted is compliant because it does not show that. And that was part of, I know that was quite a discussion. It was a discussion at the commissioners' hearing as well. And I believe that everything that is supposed to be a part of this project that can be defined, and it can be defined, what's not defined is whether or not they get approval from St. John's Water Management District. So I believe it should be on this plan, and I think that while that's just very small, it's a big deal because that was a condition or part of a condition of an approval. That was the last, as I call it, it was his last card that he threw on the table and said, well, I'm going to do this. If that doesn't happen and it's not shown on here, how do we know that it will happen?
They can't put a shovel in the ground until they have a St. John's permit and a development permit from the county. Both,
I get that. I get
and
that.
both include drainage, full drainage reviews, the fact that the drainage system works.
Okay, but why isn't it on their drawing to show that that's where what they're going to do?
Because this is a preliminary subdivision plan and not engineering plans. Once they get approval of this, then they move to engineering plans, which are obviously far more technical in nature and more involved and include drainage calculations, et cetera, and that's
Okay.
when
Let me clarify. All right, let me clarify then. Is it Mary, are you in the room?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks, hon. Mary, when it goes to final engineering review, does that then go to the commissioners on consent?
No, the final engineering is a staff review level. The final plat will go to the commission, and that is generally a consent agenda item. So
Okay.
the engineering plans are reviewed by a professional engineer who has the professional technical skills and training and certifications to review them and make sure that they meet the engineering standards.
I'm not discounting that person's ability, trust me. I just want to know at what point, how do we then get the opportunity from a citizen's review to look at that?
They are available once they have been submitted, and I believe Joy had mentioned they have not been submitted. Once they are submitted, you can request review of them from the county.
Okay, but you don't put it on your webpage when they submit it, do you?
We will post on our development maps the status.
Okay.
It does not need to go to the Development Review Committee. So it
Okay.
won't go.
Okay, I'll follow up with you on that, just to get a better understanding. Thank you very much for your time.
By the way, under state regulations, you need to be technically correct, I would recommend, but you could even appeal their permit if you so desired, if you thought their permit was issued incorrectly. So there's
Yeah.
opportunities for you to intervene if you want to.
Thank you very much for that advice as well, because we are looking at that too. So thank you very much for your time.
All right, so we're back to...
Should I restate the motion?
No, I don't think you
I'll
need to.
second the motion.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second to approve the PSP. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? No one? Motion carries. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the Borrow Pit amendment to the Land Development Code. That has been requested to be continued to the March 3rd meeting. So I'll need a motion to continue this to the March 3rd
I'll
meeting.
make a motion, we continue the Borrow Pit hearing till the March meeting.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So that is now continued to the March 3rd meeting. Item 3 on the agenda was the Mobility Fees Land Development Code Amendment, one of my favorites. They have decided to withdraw that application and don't have any time in the future when they will come back. They'll have to re-advertise and start over. So that is effectively dead for the moment. Item 4 on the agenda is a Wellfield Protection Amendment to the Land Development Code. Mary, you're doing that one yourself?
Actually, I'm going to punt this to Mario Chavez from Environmental Services, and he will have a brief presentation for everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Mario Chavez. I'm the Utilities Engineer Manager for Environmental Services. I have a little presentation that probably make it easier.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. There you go. Thank you. Forward these. Okay. Wellfield Protection Ordinance Update. Let me see. There you go. The purpose and intent, safeguard the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Seminole County by protecting water supply wellfield through existing regulation, updating existing ordinance to reflect regulatory changes. And in this case, this is the add-on part. We're prohibiting installation of water supply wells between half a mile of an existing or permitted aquifer recharge and aquifer storage and recovery wells. Let me see the next one. Am I doing it right? Oh, sorry. Yeah. We're adding a new section. This section is related with aquifer recharge and aquifer storage and recovery wells. The intent is that the installation of water supply well is prohibited between half a mile of a permitted or existing AR, aquifer recharge, or aquifer storage and recovery ASR well. There's a caveat, unless confinement exists between the production zone of the water well and for the aquifer storage and recovery or the aquifer recharge well. The county will make the final determination whether is adequate confinement exists. And this prohibition does not apply to recovery wells associated with an aquifer recharge system. The main reason we have an existing aquifer storage and recovery well, which is potable water located just north of our Markham water treatment plant. I think it's just next to school. This is the half a mile radius, as you see. In this particular case, we're going to convert the existing potable water ASR into a reclaimed water ASR. And the new regulations from the EP requires that there's no water supply wells in the area that will be conflicting with what we're going to be doing here. So that's the main reason. And then as an example, if you can see there at the bottom of the circle, that's the Markham water treatment plant wells number 2 and 3, I think. Yes. Just as an example, those are in the area of influence, but the way those two wells are part of the upper Florida aquifer, and which is in the area in purple. The middle confinement unit, which is part in yellow, separates the ASR, which is in the lower Florida aquifer, the part in orange. So in this particular case, we already have like about 400 feet distance separating that. So we have that confinement. So there is not cross between the ASR or aquifer recharge and water supply wells. So it's just an example, and just so it is understanding. The rest of the ordinance is pretty much straightforward, updating old regulation that have changed over the years. I think the last time this was changed was over 20 years ago. And a lot of those regulations refer into that ordinance, which the county attorneys can talk about it, no longer apply. So we're updating all that part as well. So the only add-on is the prohibition of water supply wells between half a mile of ARs, aquifer recharge, or ASR wells as well.
And Mr. Chairman, I just would like to remind the board that this is an amendment to the Land Development Code, and that is why the Planning and Zoning Commission is hearing it. So you all will be making a recommendation to the BCC on this. But in case you're wondering why you're hearing about wells right now.
Any questions of staff? I'm just curious, are there any raw water wells that are not in compliance once this passes?
No, sir, that I know of.
I'm just curious. Okay, thank you. Any questions? Any more questions? All right, thank you. We had one public comment card. Cindy Holler, she said she was in favor of this amendment, but she didn't want to speak. So is there anybody else in the public that has anything to say on this application? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. Anyone comments to the board?
Richard, what
Yes.
about online? Anybody?
There are no
I'm sorry.
hands. Thank you. There are no hands raised online,
Thank you, I'm
though.
not used to this. Nobody?
Nobody. Thanks for
Okay.
keeping us honest, though.
I'm trying.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners adopt the ordinance amending Chapter 55 West Wellfield Protection of the Land Development Code to add a new section to prohibit the installation of a water supply well within a half a mile, 2,640 feet of existing or permitted aquifer recharge or aquifer storage and recovery wells.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No one. Motion carries. Item number 5, the Cove at Sanford Farms. Joy?
Yes. Good evening, Joy Giles, Senior Planner for Planning and Development. This request is for a large-scale land use amendment from suburban estates and plan development to plan development and a rezone from A1 and PD to PD on 13.5 acres located on the north side of Orange Boulevard, east of New York Avenue, or New York Street. Let me make sure that this, okay, here we go. Sorry about that. In 2007, the Board of County Commissioners approved the south 4.25 acres of the subject site as the Orange Boulevard PD with a density of 2.86 units per acre with a minimum lot size of 9,000 square feet. The site was never developed and the PD has since expired. The applicant proposes to develop the entire 13.5 acres as a single-family residential subdivision with a density of 2.2 units per net buildable acre, with a maximum of 30 lots and a minimum lot size of 8,400 square feet, with the exception of lots adjacent to Ohio Avenue that will have a minimum lot size of 10,200 square feet. The development will have a 10-foot wide landscape buffer along the west perimeter, a 40-foot wide buffer along the, the development will have a 10-foot wide buffer along the west and south perimeter, a 40-foot wide buffer along the north perimeter adjacent to Ohio Avenue, and a 10-foot wide landscape buffer along the southern portion of the east perimeter. In February of 2020, the developer presented a similar request on 16.11 acres, proposing a density of 2.35 units per net buildable acre for 35 lots with a minimum lot size of 7,700 square feet. The development did not have frontage on Orange Boulevard and proposed access from New York Street. The request was denied by BCC. This current proposal will be accessed from Orange Boulevard, which is classified as an urban collector, or an urban major collector, actually. The developer will be required to dedicate 25 feet along Orange Boulevard for right-of-way. The section of Orange Boulevard lying between State Road 46 and Monroe Road has improvements scheduled for the county's 5-year capital improvement program. The planned improvements provide for widening of Orange Boulevard to a divided 2-lane section west of North Oregon Street, a 10-foot shared use path along the south side of Orange Boulevard, a sidewalk along the north side of Orange Boulevard, and left turn lanes to be constructed at major points along the corridor in order to improve traffic flow. The program also provides improvements to the roadway drainage, including an urban section with curb and gutter, a closed stormwater collection system, and stormwater ponds and treatment and attenuation. The capital improvement project for Orange Boulevard is currently under the design review phase, with plans expected to be completed in April of 2021. The developer is also required to dedicate 10 feet of right-of-way and construct a sidewalk along Ohio Avenue. However, in lieu of constructing the sidewalk, the developer proposes to pay into the Seminole County Sidewalk Fund and is requesting a waiver from Section 5.12B that requires the developer to prep the area with clearing, grading, drainage, and sodding. The requested waiver is for the purpose of maintaining all of the existing natural vegetation along the north perimeter for the 40-foot wide landscape buffer. Staff finds the requested land use amendment and rezone to be consistent with the policy guidelines in the comprehensive plan and the land development code. The future land use element of the comp plan establishes criteria to be used in the evaluation of proposed future land use amendments, consistent with the requirements of state law and individual site compatibility. These criteria include some of the following. Criteria A, has the character of the surrounding area changed enough to warrant a different land use designation? The Suburban Estates Future Land Use designation was assigned in 1989, and since then we've seen substantial growth along the Orange Boulevard corridor. Development along Orange Boulevard ranged in density from 1 unit per acre to 10 units per acre, with the most recently approved Bartram's Landing in December of 2020 at 3.7 units per acre. Tesoro Townhomes was approved in 2018 with a density of 10 units per acre. And Gateway at St. John's, also approved in 2018 at 4.6 units per acre. Criteria B, will public facilities and services be available concurrent with the impacts of development at adopted levels of service? Seminole County is the utility provider for water and sewer, and capacity is available. Seminole County Public Schools provided a school capacity determination based on concurrency service areas and zoned schools for the subject site. The zoned high school is currently over capacity. However, per the adopted interlocal agreement, available school capacity is based on concurrency service areas, and capacity is available. The traffic impact statement shows that the roadway segments and the intersections are currently operating at adopted levels of service and will continue to do so with the additional trips generated by the project. Criteria C, is a proposed land use compatible with existing development in accordance with the compatible transitional land uses shown in the comp plan Flu Exhibit 1? Flu Exhibit 1, which is also included in your agenda package, provides a table listing compatible transitional land uses based on density and intensity. The table shows that suburban estates and low-density residential, which allows a maximum of 4 units per acre, are compatible transitional land uses. Staff finds the increase in density from the existing suburban estates land use of 1 unit per acre to the requested planned development land use of 2.2 units per acre to be consistent with Flu Exhibit 1. The additional 1.2 units per acre provides a more subtle increase in density than the allowable low-density residential future land use designation of 4 units per acre. In addition, the property adjacent to the east of the subject site is developed as a single-family subdivision with a density of 3.46 units per acre and a minimum lot size of 7,500 square feet. Staff finds a request to be consistent with the Land Development Code under the PD zoning classification by providing the required 25% open space, providing perimeter landscape buffers, and a lot size that's compatible with the trend of development in the area. Therefore, staff recommends that the Board of County Commissioners transmit the proposed ordinance enacting a large-scale land use map amendment from suburban estates and plan development to state review agencies, and subject to approval, adopt the associated ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 and PD to PD, and approve the associated development order and master development plan as requested. Thank you.
Questions to staff?
Yes, I have one. When we compare this to Bartram's Landing, other than the lot size being larger, is there anything that would stand out as far as the difference between the two subdivisions?
Yes, actually, this development has a significantly large buffer on the north perimeter. It's 40 feet wide. It also, the lots are much larger, and there is a wider lot width as well. I believe Bartram's Landing was...
6,000.
Yes, and I believe the lot width was 40 or 50 feet on that one.
Yeah, something like that.
The minimum lot width for this project is 70 feet for the 8,400 square foot lots and 85 feet for the 10,200 square foot lots.
Okay.
All of the larger lots are placed on the north perimeter adjacent to Ohio.
Okay. And this has been bad, this is the third time this has been here in front of us?
This is a different parcel configuration. The previous, and I had it on the PowerPoint, but I think we loaded the wrong PowerPoint, but
okay.
I
Steve,
can
you look
show
at this?
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joy, we turned down the application that only bordered Ohio Avenue, didn't
Right.
get all
That's
the way,
correct.
didn't all the way get
That's
down
correct.
to Orange.
And I
Yeah.
do have a small map of what was, just to show you the outline of what was previously, the parcels involved of what was previously requested. I can put that on the overhead for you, just to show you the difference.
Why don't you, for our new members too, so they
Yeah, so they can
understand
get up to speed.
what the history of this thing is?
I think another key difference between this and Bartram's is we've heard so much from residents in this area about traffic and stacking of traffic when the entrance to the community is on these kind of side roads. This one, entrances on Orange now, as a change from the previous one we saw.
Which I think was something that I
We
sort of brought up.
demanded, I think, or
Yeah.
insisted that we wouldn't approve it without it.
Yeah. So I think each time I've had something to say about it.
Did you got it, Joy?
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and put this. Okay, so if you look at the map in your agenda package of what's being proposed today, you'll see that it's much different from the previous request that had no frontage on Orange and was going to access from New York.
Yeah. And that actually was the second,
This was the
Proposed.
second proposal, yes,
the
the
first one
proposal.
zigzagged around.
Yeah,
all
That is
five acre
correct,
parcels.
yes.
That's right.
And I asked the gentleman to square it up.
Yes, the first one, excuse me, left out a little portion
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
And then the developer went back and obtained
But we
more.
turned down the hashed green area, and now he's lost some land and added a piece to get down to Orange Avenue that's already zoned as a PD. Is that correct, Joey?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah.
That was approved in 2007 at a density of 2.75.
Okay.
Or 2.35, I believe.
Okay, thank you for refreshing my memory.
Further questions of staff? Applicant present?
Hello, guys. Zach Miller at 8241 Via Bonita with Miller Construction. So, as you know, we have been before you guys a few times with this project, or a similar project, not this project, and came back and kind of went back to the drawing board, figured out a couple of different options, and were able to get the frontage on Orange per your request. Met with the city, the residences several times and heard got their input. As she mentioned, we've got a large buffer off of Ohio, which was sort of a request from the residences. I also recently moved the retention area to the back. Again, part of the request of the residences. We've got a large buffer from the front to before the first house to kind of give it a little bit more of a enclave type feel, to where you don't have you don't see a lot of houses from the street. So I feel like we've kind of met everybody's request, and we're back before you again.
No access on Ohio in your new design?
No access on Ohio.
Thank you. Any
So-
questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I do. Is it going to be gated off of Orange?
It will be, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so it's going to be gated off of Orange, and you have a 60-foot natural buffer in the rear?
To the rear, yeah, yep. It's technically a 40-foot buffer, but then you've got a 10-foot dedication to the right-of-way, and then we've got a 10-foot, another buffer, the landscape buffer, basically, on the south side of it.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right.
Okay, this is a public hearing. We have one application that supports it. Pete, you were against it, now you're in favor of Pete Bus? Buick.
It's like a car, Buick.
Oh, Buick.
I mean, it's been messed up.
Please, need to come up and state your name and address for the record. So you filled out now you're opposed, and now
Explain.
you're okay.
Let me explain. As I said, Pete Buick, 5376 Ohio Avenue. I've been before you before, and I've fought all the development north of Ohio Avenue. We were zoned estate family homes, 2.5 acres, and I still don't like the development that's going on. Although I'm a realist and I understand that things change. So, given that, we've spoken with Zach, and he has been very kind and acquiesced to our input and our concerns. The word has gone that the new development line is Ohio Avenue. Well, if that's the case, then please put the buffer. They did Somerset, 3-4 years ago, You know that buffer, that lake that's behind them, or their retention pond that's behind them, is a nice offset from Ohio. We met with Zach. Zach said that he's amenable to that. He's got his 40-foot buffer, or whatever it was, and then he's going to put his pond in. If that sets the precedent, you're going to continue to develop, I understand it, all along Ohio. If that's what you're going to do, if you can put an offset, trees, an acceptable fence, others will speak to that, and a pond, and push the houses far enough back, which keeps at least the charm of the ambiance of our estate homes. And stop, please, stop any and all further development north of Ohio. So, all that being said, I want to thank you for the last time I've stood up here before you and argued against Bertram. Y'all went 5-0 for us. Unfortunately, it went before the commissioners, and it was a done deal before we even got there. But that's another issue. But I'm saying to all of y'all, thank you very much for siding with us. Thank you for hearing our concerns. We love our community. We love Seminole County. We love Northwest Seminole County. And it's disappearing before our eyes. So please, consider all that. But all that being said, I understand. I am taking Zach at his word and his promise that this is what he will put in. The buffer, the lake, similar or identical to Somerset, and to me, that's acceptable. So if he does that, I will support it.
Thank you. Understand that everything's on the record, so when he comes with his site plan, you'll see it again. It'll be a public hearing.
He's already indicated to me what.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Crystal Marmo? Name and address for the record, please.
Crystal Marmo, 1511 North New York Street in Sanford. Do you have a few things? Yeah, an overhead's fine. Okay. We'll just go in order. I do have the numbers.
And I'd like to remind any people who bring items in that we keep them for the record.
That's fine.
So,
You can have it. I have plenty of copies. Okay, so I would say y'all should be getting to know us pretty well, however. Some of you are new. So when my family moved into Sanford Farms, it was because it was about literally the only place that had acreage to buy and build a home. We've only been in our home finally after 2 years, 6 weeks, and I've been to way too many of these meetings. I want to be really clear on the zoning. Sanford Farms is listed A1, 1 home per acre at a minimum. The surrounding homes are not the precedents, no matter how much Joy says it. Sanford Farms has been here long before any of those neighborhoods. As you can see, we're being tracked. Oops, sorry, this is you too. Well, someone wasn't looking. You've managed to develop against our will almost everything around us. We are just about the last bit of land that's not swallowed up by development in the area. I have done some research, and one of your very own P&Z members stated on the record, she didn't think that the current ditches along the roads can handle the increased stormwater that the development would generate. In this next picture, the little small circles are the landowners in Sanford Farms. Adding this big red blob, it's clear that putting high-density housing in the area is out of place. It's already zoned A1. It's already zoned 1 house per acre. In addition, it's my understanding that on the corner of New York and Orange, you're now putting a parking lot, which is another eyesore for us. I know you plan to widen on Orange and work on the drainage for future. The problem is it's not for future. It's to catch up on what you've already done. So you're getting ready to add more, and you haven't fixed the problems that are already existing from everything that's around us right now. In Zach Miller's own words, it would be financially unfeasible to build a subdivision of 1 home per acre as residents want. But when do you start actually listening to those of us who live here and following the codes that are already in force and have been for years? The developer making more money is not important to us. And clearly, based on Sanford Farms, there are plenty of people who would love to have 1 acre lots with their home on them. Residents do not have much confidence in the promises for you guys to protect our area. We finally got signs up for the bear preserve because of all of the parking. It's a very narrow road. However, there is absolutely zero enforcement. As you can see, this was last weekend. We have a police officer that sits at the end of the road. They look at him, they park their cars, they walk away, and nothing is done. The pictures, or the signs were simply to appease us. There's been no enforcement for it.
Crystal,
the weekend before that-
your time's up.
Oh,
but
okay. Weekend before that, 9 cars. You've got police cars, you've got an emergency down there. They could barely get through. As an end to this, I agree that compromise is absolutely needed. However, I believe we in Sanford Farms have been the ones who have constantly compromised. I think it's time for you guys to stand up, stand your ground, stand for us, and let the developer compromise and do the 1 acre homes. So I oppose this request to rezone our community.
thank you.
That's it. You want this too? It's got my name on it.
Wafa Esposito?
$5040 Hawks Hammock Way, Sanford, Wafa Esposito. We haven't heard regarding, first of all, the density and the new upgrade to the drainage. What is the calculation based on what the Orange Boulevard drainage is designed? What's the capacity? Because if this trend is gonna keep going, by the time the project will end in 2 years' time, it will be overwhelmed, I think. Or at least if you can tell us what has been the plan and the calculation for, that would be good, would make us feel good. Because the issue's always been flooding, in that whole area. And we're all putting our hopes on the new drainage, but we really don't know if this trend will keep going on, how we're gonna be a few years from down the road. Also, we didn't hear regarding the fencing, because I live in a community that is fenced, and the bears don't understand fencing. They just put them down. I can get you in communication with our home association and see how this is constantly an issue. If we fence, the more we fence these properties, the more interaction with the bears will be with the rest of the community. Right now and next door, I have looked lately, in the short span of 3 months, there have been at least 100 posting about bears interaction. The people understand that and coexist with them, but my concern, if they get cornered and get negative interaction, we would be all sorry about that. So I would like to hear about the fencing, and we are hoping that the density, whether in this project or the one before, won't be that high, because we are just concerned again about the water issue. Thank you.
Thank you. In answer to your question, by the way, this is only a rezoning and a land use amendment. Your questions about fencing and things like that come if they're approved and they come back with a site plan. That's when we see that. That's not at this part of the application.
Thank you.
Okay. Cindy Howard, do you want to speak again? Are you?
Yes, I want to speak. I also want to request 6 minutes, please. I'll try not to speak for 6 minutes.
Who are you representing?
Pardon me?
Who are you representing?
My community of St. John's River Estates, which is right next door.
Are you an officer in the association?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Please, again, though, state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. So Cindy Holler, 1731 Beacon Drive, Sanford. So this rezoning, the Cove, this is a difficult situation because I understand that there are some opposing views. So like I said, I live in St. John's River Estates. However, I also am a property owner in Sanford Farms. So I do have some vested interest, obviously, in Sanford Farms. So we've got, so it's better. So thanks, Zach Miller. I mean, you're not at my home, so we're grateful for that. Rezoning agricultural land with the future land use of suburban estates, which is to planned development. By the way, the planned development had expired, and also the planned development was 2.25 acres, I think, the one that expired off of Orange Boulevard. So here's my concerns. Density, 2.2 units per net buildable acre is still too dense for this sensitive area. 30 homes is still too many for right there. So it doesn't matter, in my opinion, if more density has already been approved and built, because I feel that those were mistakes. And I will tell you that people on different boards would say that Somerset, even though it sits close by, should not have been built there. Drainage, so a retention pond similar to Somerset in the north end, that's a good idea. And so I'm grateful that Mr. Miller has spoken to the residents and will, put that into his plan. I want to talk about the wall. Briefly, I've heard some discussion about the wall. I personally prefer no wall for easy flow of wildlife. We've got the proximity of Black Bear Wilderness Area, of course, to the north. And a resident in Sanford Farms had talked about people walking into Sanford Farms. I mean, people in Somerset, they still walk into Sanford Farms, so that's like it's like a null issue. Putting up a wall could actually also mess up the water flow. So, and another thing.
If I could interrupt you, this is not the time and place to talk about the wall. This is strictly a zoning and land use amendment.
Okay, all right, so I'll move on from there. The wildlife or the natural buffer, I think is a good idea, so I support that. I want to bring up wildlife signs, if I could. I'd like the commission to consider educating residents, visitors and residents about the bears and county rules pertaining to securing garbage, so I'd like to see signage put up in different communities, especially new communities in Seminole County. No sidewalk. I saw that was, part of the stuff that was on the county page. And I would like to encourage as many trees as to be saved as possible. So I want to jump over to the timeline. In 1988, the Wekiva Protection Act was approved. 1989 is when the future land use of suburban estates and Sanford Farms was put in place. So basically, that one home per net buildable acre was actually put in place to support the Wekiva Protection Act because we were looking at bodies of water that are sensitive in this area. And then 1999, Preserved Astor Farms was approved, and of course we know how the county has, kind of considered the homes that are west of that to be strictly to go by the one home per acre. And that's kind of like where Miller Estates has his 4 homes. So, all right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph Humphreys. Name and address for the record, please.
My name's Joseph Humphreys. I live at 883 Cardinal Point Cove, Sanford, Florida. I come before you as a realtor for 30 years, a development company employee, but somebody who moved to this area based on the advertising that's hanging on the wall right behind you. I agree about the zoning, and I agree with Commissioner Delory and Commissioner Constantine that we have zoning. I can introduce you to some old timers that have lived out in this area for a long time, and they will tell you that that area historically has been full of wildlife and flooding. I can show you records that go back to the turn of the century. So I'm opposing the increase of zoning. I'm certainly not against development because I'm a real estate investor, but not in this particular area. When I look at the Vision 2020 Comprehensive Plan, the goal, item number 1, protection of the environment. It goes down a little bit further, talks about protection of the rural and agricultural areas, Sanford Farms. This area is historically just that. And high-density development, whether it's been approved previously or not, doesn't make any sense. The current consultants that the county is working with have said that PDs are overused. I think the commission has agreed with that. And if you look at the county codes, they are. Speaking as to wildlife, this information is from what was presented to the county commission by Florida Fish and Wildlife. These are the stats from 18 and 19. We don't have them for 20 yet. We're waiting for them as we speak. As you can see from those numbers, while some of the areas were increasing. These are the numbers specifically, and you can see property damage increased 140%. Dead bears, sick bears increased 52%. And I can tell you my conversations with FWC is that the numbers are going to be dramatically higher. This is a map of where we're talking about. The big ring, as you can see in green, that's the urban bear zone. The little circle is the Orange Avenue or Boulevard area that we're talking about. So this is what we're concerned about. This area is being overdeveloped.
Your
You can develop as
your
it
time's up,
speeds.
so just wrap up if you could.
Right. I'm just asking you, we need to look at the big picture here. We have the ability to develop, you've heard this evening. There are houses that are being built there on 1+ acres. I live on an acre lot. I know the demand is there for homes on 1 acre lots. I know Mr. Miller builds homes on 1 acre lots. I'm asking you to hold the line, protect that, because that's why many of us moved here. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any more speaker cards. Does anybody else want to speak for or against this application? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing.
Just to remind the chair, I do have...
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Do we have anybody, Mary?
Yes, I'm going to allow Mr. Bayer, hold on. He should be allowed to talk, he just needs to unmute himself.
Thank you.
Got it. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you for addressing this tonight and, very considerately allowing everybody to speak, and I appreciate the way you're running the meeting. A lot of what, I had in mind has been said, and so I don't want to take too much of your time to say it. By the way, my name is David Baer. I live at 921 Tuscaloosa Trail. I serve as president of Save Rural Seminole. What I wanted to chime in beyond you reiterating some of those points, or rather I should say encouraging you to pay close attention to many of those points, is the perspective that as an attorney, I wanted to make sure that you guys weren't operating under a misconception. And so, what I've heard from you guys as weighing heavily on you is looking at some of these other developments nearby which have been approved, which have higher density. And you guys have a concern that maybe sort of ties your hand and obligates you to follow course. And that's not true. It is certainly true that you can't arbitrarily deny increased density to one applicant where you have allowed it to another applicant. But if there are reasons why you don't want to allow increased density to a subsequent applicant, you don't have to, just because a prior applicant got it. For example, if you've learned a lesson from giving too much density to a prior applicant, you can simply state on the record, yes, the prior applicant got too much density, but that was a mistake in hindsight. And so we're not discriminating against this applicant because we don't like him or something. We're not making the same mistake a second time. And so I wanted to encourage you guys to think about it in that way, rather than feeling like your hands were tied to making the same mistake again. And I think when you look at it that way, then what is apparent to everybody is that maintaining the lower density is the right thing to do. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anybody else, Mary?
Yes, I'm going to allow Patricia Czar to speak.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Patricia Czar, 5395 Ohio Avenue, Sanford, Florida, 32771. We've been in this area, which is very close to the proposed site, for 20 years, and we love it. We have 2 acres. A lot of people have 4 acres, 6 acres more. So that's more of the average of this area. And we see the bears. We were bicycle riding, my husband and I, the other night, and we saw the bears. He said, oh, it's getting to be dusk, and they're walking around. We better get back home. But we live with them. And I found out just recently that there's 5 bears that live on this property, the proposed site. And that's going to be a real shocking for them. And they're going to be going through walls and climbing over and getting back to where they had their, where they were born, to have their own next litter of bears. That's just what they do, and they live here, and this is a buffer area between the Black Bear Wilderness and Orange, and that's supposed to be, we have now changed it to 1 house per acre instead of 4 or 5, acres per 1 house. So I really want to see it stay that way. It's so important to us. And if just having access to Orange is the carte blanche to having multiple density, then we're in trouble. All the wildlife's in trouble. The flooding is still a problem. It hasn't been fixed. That was brought up before, and it has to be addressed before anything else happens. But this is the buffer area. We need to keep it that way. And that's all I have.
I have no other raised hands.
Okay. With that being said, I'll close the public hearing. The applicant, Mr. Miller, if you want to respond to any of the comments that were made, you have that right.
Just don't have much to say. I appreciate the ones who spoke for me, and if you have any questions for me, I'm here for that.
Any questions of Mr. Miller?
You don't have any fences going up or walls, do you? It's all natural?
It is, the natural buffer on the back is going to be, there's going to be a natural buffer back there, but
Okay.
actually, per some of the residences, we are going to do a fence around the perimeter, but that will be on the other side of the buffer. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So.
okay. What kind of fence?
It's going to be a 6-foot fence to match what was on, the fence part will be similar to Somerset. The front, I'm intending to do a split rail fence as opposed to the concrete wall. Just not a fan of the concrete wall. So the front will be the split rail, and the remainder of the perimeter will be the similar fence to Somerset.
Is that like a vinyl?
It's a vinyl, yeah, the brown vinyl fence that goes up, 6-foot fence.
So if one of the bears wanted to come home to this piece of property, they would have no trouble with that vinyl fence?
It'd be tough for them to get over that 6-foot fence, I would imagine. But I guess they could. I mean, they're very strong.
They're well adapted to
Yeah,
climbing.
that's very true.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I want to bring to your attention, I did get another raised hand after you closed the public hearing. I will leave it to you if you'd like.
We'll allow it. Thank you, Mr. Miller. There's something that this person adds, you can come back with.
Okay, all right.
Ms. Harmon, you should be allowed to talk now.
Name and
Thank you.
address for the record, please.
I don't know, sometimes that happens. Nancy Harmon, 752 Pioneer Way in Geneva, Florida. This application, this is like a rerun. I have some issues and concerns. And looking at the staff's comments, first let me say this. When I look at the property appraiser's map and the amount of property, I see 20 acres. I don't see 13 acres. So I don't understand why there's a difference in the amount of acreage that's shown on the application and the amount, there's a disparity between that information. So that concerns me. The other thing that I heard tonight, which is really something that's concerning me, is that, and I'm reading it, is in the staff's comments under compatibility, it states that based on the existing development pattern in the area, Ohio Avenue appears to be an appropriate transition line from denser development along Orange Avenue, New York Street, to suburban estates density north of Ohio Avenue. I'd like to know who makes that decision in the staff and has the authority to say that. That's effectively saying that they are, by this meeting and by an approval at this meeting, that everybody's in agreement that that is the transition line, and I disagree with that. These are suburban estates. The future land use map states suburban estates. I also dispute the fact that the property that was PD is still PD because that PD died. So when it died, I want to know, does it revert back to the SE that it was? It isn't PD anymore. So it's not a matter of we're transitioning anything at this point other than we are transitioning high density onto people who are low density. We're not transitioning between two parcels of land. There's space in between these parcels. So it's not like an infill. This isn't an infill. This doesn't even match an infill. So I have some real issues with the way this is being presented as though it's a no-brainer. We're just plussing up a little density and a little acre and a half, one resident, 1.2 resident per acre, or the 2.2 is a good thing. It's not a good thing. It is not a good thing when the future land use map specifically has stated and has been in place and is what the people in the community have depended upon when they made their purchase. And as stated previously, there is not just 1 acre land lots here. There are 2 acres, 4 acres. I've seen 10 acres. So this is not transitional. We have a lot of different acre sizes in this development area. So I ask you to really look at this hard. And the access to Orange Boulevard, all that means is more traffic being dumped on Orange Boulevard. If you look at the map and where the build-out is on the density surrounding
Your time is up, so wrap up, please.
Thank you very much. If you look at the map, you will see the majority of the land is not high density. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. What's that? When did you get here, sir? Because everybody, I only allowed the internet because it's difficult. You're late to the meeting. I'm sorry. I'm not going to allow you to speak. We closed the public hearing. Thank you. All right, back to the board.
If I can have a moment, please.
Yes,
I just want to address 2 things that were brought up. One was the question of the PD zoning, and so the PD has expired.
The one in the front, the piece in the
yes.
front expired.
And so per policy, what that means is that they no longer have those, they would have to come back in for any redevelopment, but they still have that PD zoning on the property.
Yeah, they have underlying zoning, but, right.
Yes, so that they would, and I believe that the other question was the land use consistency. So staff is tasked with looking, if you go back to your staff report, there are several items in the comprehensive plan that staff is tasked to look at when we are approached with a a land use amendment. And so that is what staff analyzed, were those elements in the comprehensive plan.
Thank you, Mary. Any other comments?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
After what happened with Bartram Landing, we denied that 5-zip, based on this being the third time that this gentleman has come back to us. He's done everything I asked him to do. He got the entrance out onto Orange Boulevard. I have to disagree with a comment about it not being, transitional, because if I look at the retreat at Wekiva, it abuts the retreat. So I just don't see any reason to continue to turn them down at this point. And if we were to deny it, I just have a feeling it'll go back to the BCC and be approved anyway.
I agree. I personally feel like this developer has, or this applicant has compromised a great deal in this case. I think that the entrance on Orange, as well as the widening of Orange that's in the county's plan, as well as the improvements to the drainage and sewer along the road there, makes this a little different. I know that we continue to have residents concerned about the wildlife, but things are going to be built here, and this one, it does not seem all that offensive to me. I think that he's done his work.
Any other comments? Dan and Tim, just if you guys are looking at this map, okay?
Yes, sir.
Just as a matter of history, we felt the horse was out of the barn with the two big developments, the retreat at Wekiva and Astor Farms. Those were done a long time ago. Probably shouldn't have been, in our opinion. We did turn down Bartram's Landing. The commission overrode us on that, which they have the right to do. And again, just for sake of history for you guys, we turned down this application more than once, I think you said that, Chris.
Yeah.
And said, hey, if it's, first of all, we can't approve it if he can't get to Orange Avenue, which he couldn't at the time. Now he has. Now it's a question of, well, okay, are we going to still allow now continued encroachment, if you will, into this suburban area or not? And you guys feel like, hey, he has done everything. I can't really disagree with you.
Well, we kept moving the goalposts, and he kept
hitting
the football through it.
So, that just being said, I just wanted you guys to have a little bit of the history of the thing, so you take a position one way or the other.
Thank you.
You guys got any questions on this or anything? Because this is kind of your first controversial.
I appreciate the
in your first
recap and
meeting.
clarifying, because I thought I was hearing that it was came before us twice before, and so everything has been met as far as the concerns of the commission prior to that, right?
Yeah, I think he's met all of our concerns.
Yeah.
So then I'll make a motion to recommend the Board of County Commissioners transmit the proposed ordinance enacting a large-scale future land use map amendment from suburban estates and plan development to state and regional review agencies, and subject to final approval and adoption of the large-scale future land use amendment ordinance, adopt the associated ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 agriculture and PD plan development to PD plan development, and approve the associated development order and master development plan for approximately 13.5 acres located on the north side of Orange Boulevard, approximately a quarter mile east of North New York Street.
I'll second.
We have, who seconded that?
I do.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is our own business, and that will be the election for this year of our chairman and our vice chairman. First of all, let me say that I have enjoyed serving as a chairman and you guys have put up with me. Some of you have been around a little while, put up with me for a while. I think it's time for someone else to take over this for both the experience and the future. I'm getting kind of old anyway. So with that being said, thank you, though, for the confidence in me and allowing me to serve as long as I did. With that being said, I'd like to just open up and nominate Carissa Lawson, our vice chair, as this year's chairman.
Man, I will second that.
Great. Any other nominations? All right.
So you don't want to jump right in? Good answer.
With that being said, we'll just call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I was going to vote no, but that's okay.
Congratulations, I think.
Thank you.
Yep, congratulations. That brings up the vice chair. I'm going to hold it again. I'd like to nominate Steve Smith as the vice chair.
And I'll second that.
So any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody opposed? Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You both. I'll be watching you.
I'm sure you will, right there.
Planning and zoning, or planning and development managers report. Mary?
Well, I would like to first welcome our 2 new commissioners, so thank you. We appreciate having you and for volunteering. It's a great job that you guys do, so thank you for stepping up. And I believe that Rebecca Hammock is also here. She's on the Zoom meeting and would like to say a few words as well.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Rebecca Hammock. I'm the Development Services Director. I do believe I had the opportunity to talk to one of our new P&Z commissioners on the phone when he was making his decision as to whether he wanted to serve on the board. So I just wanted to put a face with the name and introduce myself. So, and welcome aboard, and we appreciate your service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also welcome you guys, what we said so earlier, but not publicly, I guess, so glad to have you on board.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Welcome.
And then finally, I would like to let the board know that we will be looking into scheduling training. Traditionally, it's held at the end of March. Obviously, last year, we had an event that happened that precluded that training, but this year, we plan on holding training probably the fourth Wednesday in March. But
That'll be
we'll send
great.
you more
I'll look
information.
forward to it again.
What's it, like a one-day training?
Yes, it would be here in the chambers and most likely in the evening as
Understand.
well.
Okay.
Some of that's very good because,
There's a lot to learn. Yeah.
yeah, they understand what we really do, what we have the right to do, and we don't have the right to do.
Right.
And, you know, where we get, I mean, you heard a lot of people talk about drainage tonight. Obviously, that really not part of our decision as to whether a plan should be approved or not approved. I mean, that's really the technical side of the Water Management District and our own engineering department. So, but you'll hear that a lot. The drainage and the displacement of the bugs and bunnies will be the 2 major things you'll hear all the time.
And I'm sure we'll see mobility back again, and I'm sure we'll see.
I hope I die of old age. Well, or no, I'm actually just I'm very much in favor of a impact fee ordinance of some sort, whether it's a mobility fee or however it's done.
Yeah.
Just that one was not done well.
Just needs to be redesigned
Yeah.
and be a little bit more fair.
And obviously, some people must have agreed because they withdrew it.
Yeah.
And I would like to offer any board members, if they ever have any questions on an item, they can certainly reach out to me. Reminder, you cannot discuss items amongst yourselves outside of this. I mean, you
Oh,
will
yeah,
learn
that's a
that
good
at your
point.
training, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, on sunshine laws, we're not really allowed to talk to each other about an item on the agenda.
Okay.
We can drink beer after or something like that, but no discussion.
That's right.
Can't talk business.
We can talk about what happened tonight, but not
Yeah.
what's going to happen next month. Yeah.
And if you get calls, it's really up to you. It's not required, but sometimes everybody likes to report that, hey, I was lobbied by that applicant, just so everybody knows
Okay.
that applicant reached out to you and, you know, tried to influence you. So, okay. Anything else?
With that concludes my report, so thank
All
you.
right. All right. Paul?
Oh. That's what I get for,
We got some legal trouble here, it looks like. Okay.
Good evening. I didn't have to say anything during the meeting. For the record, Paul Chipok, Deputy County Attorney. Welcome aboard. And our clerk pointed out on item number 3, you didn't take any action on it. It was published, and as an agenda item for this evening. That is the mobility fee ordinance. So the request was to continue it indefinitely, so if there could be a motion in a second, that would make a cleaner record.
I'll make
I'll make a
I thought it
motion.
was withdrawn, Paul, I'm sorry.
So I think so, we'll have to re-advertise it, but they
So is that
did.
really a continuance? I mean, I'm happy to say we'll continue it, but it's more withdrawn, isn't it, than it's still a live application?
Couldn't vote on it.
Did staff withdraw it, or was it requested to be continued to a future date? Uncertain.
I think Rebecca's coming on here to, yeah.
Again, for the record, Rebecca Hammock, Development Services Director. At this time, we're requesting to table it for a future date so that we can have more discussions and review with stakeholders. So we don't need to continue it to a date certain, because when we do bring it back, we will have to re-advertise it.
Right, but the point is.
So we're not withdrawing, but it's not being withdrawn. It will come back at a future date, but we don't need it to be continued to a date certain, because when it does come back, we will re-advertise.
All right, it's a play on words. I mean, really. You want
Right,
to,
For a cleaner record, it is intended to come back at some point in the future. It will have to be advertised. It
so
was
the
not
motion
heard
should be
tonight.
for an indefinite continuance?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion for an indefinite continuance of the mobility.
I'll second.
I'd like to make your motion to amend
Oh,
it
that's
to-
right, you're not
to
chairman
permanent-
anymore.
To make it a permanent. No, I won't. Okay, there's a motion and a second to continue this to an indefinite date.
Indefinite date.
All those in favor?
Thank you very much.
Okay, Paul?
You're welcome, Paul.
Happy.
Huh?
Okay, so that concludes.
All right, then,
Make a motion to adjourn?
done. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.